I'm promoting Above Deck.
Welcome to Uncharted. I'm your host, Captain Kelly, and with me today is Captain Kerry. Some of you may know him from Below Deck, like he just said, or some of you may know him by chance encounter, like I do, bumping into him at a boat show event. Instantly, with Captain Kerry, I was drawn to his demeanor and energy. He was so kind, so cool, so human. There was just something about him in the short time I was able to chat with him that evening. And now, Captain Kerry is going to share how his uncharted path got him to where he is today. So, welcome!
G'day, Kelly. Thanks for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
No, thanks for being here. I feel like it just, I don't know, I'm so glad to have you here. And like I said, you know, when I bumped into you at the Seakeepers event, I got to admit, and this is maybe a little bit of, I don't know, imposter syndrome or what, the peaking, like creeping in. But when you came up to me and you spoke to me, I was like, and I don't get starstruck, but you came up to me and spoke to me and I was like, oh my God, this guy's on Below Deck and he's like a big boat captain. And I'm like, why is he talking to me? And that's so stupid. I shouldn't say those kinds of things to myself, but it just goes to show I don't know, I admire you so much. And the fact that you approached me, wanted to talk to me, wanted to engage with me. And then like we text back and forth every now and again. You're always so supportive of everything that I do on social medias and at the boat show and stuff like that. And I'm like, this dude's just freaking cool. I'm like you're so human. You're just so you're awesome.
Well, thank you, Kelly. Thank you very much. I mean, I love the work you're doing. I don't know of anybody else who's really driving as hard as you are on the areas of being crew that no one really acknowledges. And as captains, we're not trained to deal with. So bravo to you for all the work you are, because it's very selfless and I appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you so much. You know, and you're right. And that's something that I said recently, you know, that kind of just dawned on me. And it's really with any leadership position, whether you're captain, department head, or your CEO or CFO, you know, we rise to the top because of our skill set. And then we get there and then it's like, you know, for us, we're like, oh crap, we took one 5-day leadership course and we're supposed to be leaders and we're supposed to run a boat of how many people and like, and, you know, and, oh, wow, I only get to drive the boat like every so often. The rest of the time, you know, I'm like mom, dad, camp counselor, therapist, you know, so it's very interesting. So listen, you're pretty much diving into some of the stuff that I want to with my podcast. And my podcast is to just, not just for crew, but for anybody really that needs to be inspired or has something that they're struggling with. And mental health obviously is a big thing for me. I want to kind of digress though for a minute. How did you get into yachting? Where are you from? Give us a little bit of the backstory.
Oh boy, how much time do we have? So, I mean, I'm known for using 10 words where you could use just one word. So this could go for a bit. But I'm a career mariner. I didn't. This is not a career change for me. So I started off on a boat when I was 18 years old in Australia. Not yachting, but on a parasailing boat. But before then, I guess it was a career change when I was 18. I started my electrical apprenticeship, and I did my college for my electrical apprenticeship. The company closed down. I needed a job. All of my family are tradespeople, everybody. And that's what's expected from me. And I grew up in the bush, and there wasn't any boating careers to think of. And when that opportunity was no longer there with that company, I just banged on every door I could to find a job. I just rocked up. Hi, my name's Kerry. Do you got a job? Nah, next door. Bang, bang, bang. And I ended up like pumping gas at a full service gas station. And this job popped up for a deckhand on a parasailing boat. And man, I was such a shy kid back then. Like I was shy, very, very religious, very shy. And I couldn't look a pretty girl in the eyes. I couldn't do it. And here I am, I rock up and there's all these girls in bikinis and everyone's like running around having a great old time. And I'm just like, what the hell's going on here? This is awesome. And and this part of my story, I tell a lot of people just to show them how much effort to put into to getting a job on yachts. And that is, so I came out for an hour. So we popped the chute up, we did this, we did that. And the owner wanted to see if I had the aptitude to work on a boat. So I've been a landlubber my whole life. And we get back, and I'm like, this is so cool. I'm out on the water. Everyone wants to be happy, right? Like, as an electrician, you come to someone's house, they're pissed off. They're not welcoming an electrician to come to the house, right? And then in that job, I'd go up on a roof. It'd be so dusty up there and so humid out with metal roofs. You'd be like covered in mud. There's like snakes, spiders. It's just not fun. So we got back after an hour. I'm like, they said, thank you very much. We'll call you. And I'm like, well, can I rinse the boat down? Like, yeah, rinse the boat down. I rinsed the boat down. Thank you very much. We'll call you. Can I dry it? And then I just kept making up things to do so I wouldn't leave. Can I promise to do this? And I got the job just through persistence. And so that's where, you get someone come on the boat and, they're not as focused as I was, which we get into later. What I've learned from that is that's how I started off. And that's how I kind of would grade people, with effort on a boat. But I was doing it till I was 18, so 30 years ago. I'm 48 now, 49 around the corner. But I'm going to hold the 48 for now. And I was doing my studies to get into this thing called white boats, that we called it in Australia, because a yacht in Australia is a sailboat, not a motor vessel. And one day I'm at a mate's house having a cup of tea. My buddies knew I wanted to get into this field of yachts because I'd worked on tourist boats, as far as parasailing, ferries, landing barges. That's another story we can talk about if we have time. Dredging, fishing. Like, I tried all different facets of the industry. And one thing that's common is if the boat's not making money, things don't get fixed. So I had this picture of yachting or white boats, like these boats are all working, the equipment's working. Like I had this one boat, this dive boat that I'd run, would run at 6 knots, would go 80 miles out to the Great Barrier Reef. And I had a washing machine motor set up on the dash to run the autopilot. You know what I mean?
My gosh.
No guards. It's just so I'm hanging at a mate's house having a cup of tea, and this Aussie guy calls me up and just, hey, I heard you're good at what you do. I heard you're a captain and an engineer. My engineer can't make it, and can you come to Canada in 2 weeks? And you got to think, Australia's on the other side of the planet, right? Like, it's not just a hop, skip, and a jump. And I'm like, how do you? I said, I haven't applied for any jobs, mate. Yeah, I heard about you. And I'm thinking, it's one of my mates putting me up to this, right? And I didn't want to get called on it because I wouldn't live it down. We could caught Kerry. We had this fake job for him and he got sucked in. But then I'm like, what if it's a real job? And it was an Aussie guy as well. And yeah, he worked out why I was being so hesitant. And he's like, I'm fair income. I've got this job, mate. If you want it, it's yours. Be here in 2 weeks. And 2 weeks later, I was jogging in Townsville, which is like Panama for heat and humidity. As far as from the equator, it was 110 degrees Celsius. 110 degrees Fahrenheit, I guess, around the 40s. And I left Sydney, Australia, like on a Sunday. Call it say it was like January 2nd or whatever it was. And then I landed in Sydney, Vancouver Island an hour before I left Australia with the time zone difference. And it was like 40 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, wow. What a change. Oh my God. Yeah. Hugely.
Yeah.
You know what? You bring up a good, because I'm sure you get asked just as much as I do. And I'm grateful for the questions. Please ask. How do I get started in yachting? Or I've been looking so hard for a job and I'm having a hard time finding one. And, I don't want to sound like, like my mom or my dad and say, well, when I was a kid back in the day, that's not it. But you gotta push, man. If you want something and you truly want it, I call it squeaky wheel gets the grease. You
Yep.
got to squeak. You got to let it be known. And, I don't tell a lot of people this, but when I got started in the yachting industry, I kind of ran my mouth to this captain the first time I was ever on a yacht, and I am not a yachty. And I said to him in my kind of little chip on my shoulder self, and I said, I can drive this thing. I didn't know bow from stern, port from starboard. I don't know what, but I did. And so, fast forward or rewind back to 15 years, I said to the guy, this is what I want to do. And he's like, I'm not hiring. I don't have a job for you. And I said, fine, I will work for free.
Yeah.
I'm not condoning that, but I say that to show that if you want something, like, you will do what you got to do it. And that's not the first job that I had ever done that with. I did that with another. I wanted to work at a particular veterinary clinic, and the guy said, I'm not hiring. And I said, fine, I'll volunteer. And both of those jobs, after they saw my work ethic, after they saw like I meant it, this is what I wanted to do.
Yes.
I finally wound up with a job, so you really bring about some good points about how you really got to grind and you can't give up. And you're not going to walk the docks, and the first time you walk a dock, get a job. You got to, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, man.
Well, see, I've got a unique situation, and I want to tell you about the landing barge job in a moment, but I'm in a unique situation. I have my own yacht management company, and I'll have crew agents reach out to me and go, I found these amazing people, and they want to get into yachting, but no one's giving them a shot. And I'll talk to them. I say, look, it's up to you. I don't have anything open, but if you want to shadow me for a few days, you're welcome to. And I explained to them, when you're shadowing me, I'm less efficient. It's a cost to me because I'm less efficient at what I'm doing. I'm spending time with you with no return, and I'm doing you a favor. So you got to treat this like a real job. You got to rock up on time. You got to watch what I'm doing. Keep your phone in your pocket, and I'll give these people opportunities. And if they've got the spark, I'll give them some work. Then they can get a reference from me, and then they can start applying for jobs.
I do the same thing. Specifically when I was running in the Bahamas all the time, I kind of had this rule about me. Any freelancer had to be Bahamian because I felt that if we're in the Bahamas, chartering and making money, we got to support the local economy. So anytime I had a freelancer or someone watching down or, an extra engineer or something like that, they had to be Bahamian. But oftentimes it would be kids that knew nothing about boats, had no experience. And I'm fortunate enough to have a crew very similar in my ways about learning, and they want to help and they want to see people grow. And so I'll go to whatever department and say, hey, can you take so-and-so on and show them the ropes for a few days? And that's how a lot of them have gotten started. And the ones that are very serious, and I have one still with me today from years ago in the Bahamas, that he's like my dedicated freelancer. And even had another one come up from, she was in commercial ships, and she's a third mate unlimited. Yep. She's doing bilge work for me right now. Yes. But she knows she wants in the industry. And she's like, she goes, I don't care. She laughed the other day. She's like, she said, I used to always joke on the bridge on these big ships about the guys that had to deal with black water and oil. And she said, look at me, I'm covered in black water and oil today, but she's proof. Yeah. She's proof to show she wants it, and she doesn't, she never complains whatever I ask of her, whatever I need of her. And I always tell crew, I don't care what it is, just get your feet on the boat. Yeah. Once you get your feet on the boat, then people notice you.
And hold on for dear life, like I did.
Yeah. So tell me about you said the landing barge job.
Yeah, so in this strange system of upgrading your licenses, they're its length, not tonnage. But to gain in size, you have to work on a larger boat. All right, you can't get a captain's license for a boat that you haven't crewed on of that size. All right, so you have a 12-meter license, which is a coxswain's, which is what I needed for the parasailing boat. So that's 30-something feet. The next one up is a Master 5, which is 24 meters, and then that changes distance offshore. And then the next one up from that, I think it's like 34, and then it's 80, and then I think it's unlimited. size wise. So also the area that you're working, right? So if you're running a dive boat off Palm Beach and always diving in that one spot, you're not going to get a license that takes you to Bahamas because you haven't learnt on the job training, right? And we have a lot longer, like the sea time you need to get there, and they made it easier now, but the sea time to get to that next point is a lot more sea time. There's no bonus time. There's a minimum of so many hours. You can't be a steward or a chef and get sea time the same as a deck crew when all you do is pull fenders out. Do you know what I mean? Like it's measured, and it's there to protect crew, because if that kind of person gets a captain's license and they get in difficulties, they don't know what to do, right? And Australia's coastline, imagine if America was an island. Australia, we're about the same size, and we've got a population of a tenth. So we don't have the Coast Guard ready to come save us. We've got to save ourselves because we just don't have. There's not a population to cover all these coastal points. So you'd hope so. So anyway, so I'm on the parasailing boat, and it's only good for so I need 365 days at sea to get what's called a Master 5. Okay, the 24-meter license. So I can't. So they'll only accept so many months of sea time on a boat less than 10 meters or 15 meters, and then it needs to be over 24 meters or 24 meters to then get enough time for that. But then you also have to be going out further. All right. So example here, you're on a dive boat and you're just hanging out the front. Then you get on a day cruise boat that's 30 meters long, hanging out the front. You still need time in open water. So what I would do is, I love my parasailing job. I didn't want to give that up. But when the sea time expired, as far as it was no use to me sea time wise, I'd work all day. Then at night time, I'd jump on the ferry for 4 hours and do night runs. So I'd get some sea time for that, and I'd get paid for that. I started as a deckhand, and then I was engineer on the ferries, and engineer then mate, depending on what's going on, and then even stew. Actually, I stew a lot on there as well. One of my good buddies, we posted a picture the other day of him and I on the boat together, and he's now flying for Emirates.
we gotta have a contest. We gotta have a contest, see who can make a better bed.
Oh no, yeah. No, he's way better than me. He was a much better stew than me. But so anyway, so I'd do that, but then I needed sea time offshore. So I would work all day, work the evenings on the ferries, and then I would start work at like 11 p.m. on this landing barge, and I wouldn't get back until 6 a.m. the next day. And then I'd start my day job at 8 again. I never got paid for that landing barge, but that was a valuable sea time.
So you did the same thing I did. Yeah.
Same thing. And what's cool about this story is, and that itself was cool. We go to these Aboriginal communities and we'd help them. Then we also go to these exclusive places, and then we go to the Great Barrier Reef and bring on water for the aquarium. We'd use it to transfer pilots. It was too rough. I learned so much seamanship in that. I would drop these massive loaders. It was really, really neat. But fast forward, I don't know, 8 years, my mentor on the ferries, who told me never to do yachting, and he's regretted that since, he now took over that company, and I came back as the captain of that landing barge.
Oh, wow. So see, yeah, I'm glad you shared this story, and mine very similar too. We both did jobs that we worked for free. Again, not saying that's what you should do, but I was hell bent for it. That's what I wanted. I needed the experience. I needed the sea time, and so since I was working a free job, I also had to have a job that paid the bills. So and it worked really well because I was teaching nearby at the local college, and had flexible hours, with when classes were, and a pretty flex schedule. But then also, when the boat was busiest in the summers and the holidays is when I was off as an instructor. So it worked. But I did, but I also did that through undergrad as well. I remember working at the veterinary clinic, and then also working in the laboratory. Like I've always had 2 or 3 jobs at the same time, very similar to like what you're doing right now with Below Deck, all your extracurriculars, you're still a captain, and I think that it just shows grit and determination. And you really just can't underestimate the level of determination that it takes to get to where you want to go, because it's just, as I'm listening to you talk, I'm sitting here going, oh my God, I know why I love this guy today that I met. It's like our stories are so paralleled. I'm like, I'm like, oh my God, how can this be? So yeah, that really, and that's really cool to know what you're doing with your yacht management company too. And you're allowing, people to come on and shadow you. And that does take away from you. Same thing as it does for my crew. It takes away from them when I throw someone green at them that's never stepped foot on the boat. And I'm like, hey, I want to teach them. They do too, but it also gets in their way. But the people that have approached, or the people that I've seen have that ability in them, that drive in them, they've turned out to do so well. But no, thank you for really sharing that. So I mean, I have so many questions. Like,
all right,
keep going though, because where do you want to go? I mean, I know that you took a break from yachting. You've got Below Deck. You've got your management company. I mean, you're just living life right now. What do you want to tell us next?
So with all this talk about the drive that we've both put in, where I've gone wrong in the past, captaining, is my expectation of all my crew to have the same amount of drive and the same commitment as me. Mm-hmm. And if they don't, they're rubbish. And I'm sure there's a bunch of crew out there. I know there is. And they're seeing this captain on Below Deck right now and understanding people and compassionate and caring about what's going on at home that they never had when they worked for me. And that was and that would never have come along. I would never have recognized that until I have big life changes. I'm away in the Hamptons. I catch my wife being unfaithful, and it devastated me. And it took me to a place so low that the blessing from it all is I can really feel people now and understand them and see where they're at, and it matters. Like I remember I had the chef that flew in, which was a friend. We'd worked together in the past, and the yacht owner put a lot of pressure on me. Like if anything the crew would do wrong was on me. Which so
you're unfair. Saying in the past you were not as compassionate and understanding, and
I thought I was, but I wasn't. I was not. I'm going to give you an example. So, if your difficult place didn't seem difficult to me, I didn't validate it.
Oh, yeah.
Right, because I put the boat first. You're here to do a job. This is what we're doing. I don't care what's going on at home. We'll try and make it work out. But really, as much as I thought I cared, I didn't really. Not to the level I do now. Because I didn't have that. I was just such a go-getter, fire in my belly. You know what I mean? We're at work, deal with home after 5. You know what I mean? And I was. You know what?
That's the progression, though. We're not perfect, and we got to start learning somewhere. And, you and I are very driven and got a million different irons in the fire. And I'm guilty of the same thing as you, as to, well, why aren't they workaholics like I am? Why don't they want to work as hard as me? Why do they want to be out here at 4:00 and I'm still here at 7 PM? Like why? And you have to be very careful to not push your ideals and your ways onto someone else. And because it happens exactly what you're thinking, is you end up thinking they're rubbish because they're not doing like you.
Yes.
But it take us through those years. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that it was years of inner work, years of growth, years of getting to where you are now. I know it was for me.
Yeah. So I want to give you an example of like a baseline of where I came from, right? So we've discussed how driven I've been. I would always fight for my crew wherever I could. I would always give crew as much time off as possible. You know what I mean? I'd always find a way. I was always looking out for them. But like this is one example, right? Like, so I brought this chef in, gave her opportunity. She had some mold issues in her rent where she lived, which she was renting in the house. Mm-hmm. And it was bothering her a bit. and I convinced her to come to work. I was very good at pushing what I wanted. You know, I could sell ice on Eskimo, and I could get anyone to do whatever I wanted to get them to do. Do you know what I mean? So that could be called manipulation. That could be called encouraging. That could be getting the best out of your people. You could call it 100 different things. It was me manipulating someone to do what I needed them to do to get the job done and make the boss happy. That's the fact, and I was very good at it. And that's me recognizing that today, right? I approach things differently. But she came over because I had a chef on the boat that had problems with his heart, and there's so much going on at the time that I can't judge it too much. But the guts is this: she's come to the boat. She's still worried about this mold in this house that's not even hers. She's renting it, and I'm just like, it's not a big deal. Like, just, you're here to work, deal till you get home. I just didn't give a shit. And it got to a point where she's just like, I've got to go. And I was so angry. I was so butthurt. I broke a friendship over it. And this is a friend of mine that would let me stay at their house when I do courses in Fort Lauderdale. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is someone that really looked out for me and cared for me. And I got so caught up in my own shit and had no compassion for her because I didn't think it mattered. Right. And and we've come from there to today. And that's what's great about doing TV is you get to see yourself from other people's eyes, and you get to see your progression. Because when you're in the moment, you don't realize how far you've come. And like with Kat had something going on, and the cameras caught it good. You know, phrases like, I don't know what's going on, man. I don't know if it's a big deal. And I just went, it's a big deal to her. She's suffering. Let's get her off the boat. It didn't matter. Nothing else mattered. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I wish I had, and again, I wish that more crew had worked me in the past got to see that. You know, those are my crew that got me. Like, you and I get each other. We'd work well together because we'd be awesome. But there's probably more people who don't think I'm awesome and think I'm awesome and see this guy on TV and go, who's this guy? Is he acting? And it's not. It's been a progression. And what it was is being accountable for your actions, being self-aware. Awareness is the biggest thing. You know, realizing that I'm feeling a certain way. And then what's going to happen is if you're feeling a certain way emotionally, there's going to be an attachment or a trigger to that's going to feed that and keep it going. And I'm not there to solve their problems, but I'm there to help them be aware of where they're at. And
so was there a time period or a big aha moment where you learned that I've got to change the way that I've been leading has been working, but it's not necessarily the right way? Like, was there an aha moment, or what happened to make you realize this?
I think it's the way I run a vessel is just an evolution of me as a person. It's a byproduct of me working on myself and being aware. You know, I'm naturally a hothead. My dad as a kid was always on my ass for temper, always trying to get me to control it, but never gave me any tools. Never gave me tools to deal with it.
Now, you mentioned, though, that your wife cheated on you. So was that the moment that you were like, I've got to change some things?
It wasn't so much that. No, it was.
Or were you working on? Have you always been someone to really devoted yourself to self-care?
When I look back at the time, I was doing the best I could. Mm-hmm. But what I was doing is I was using avoidance practices to so if something was, if something was stressing me out or bothering me, I would get busy. You know, I went and got a 68 Mustang to do this, to rebuild it. So I was busy. I would go do that or start a sport, or I would use avoidance practices instead of dealing with where I was at. And then the byproduct of the emotion, how emotionally I was devastated. I mean, it was bad, Kelly. Like, I'm in the Hamptons captaining. I didn't sleep for 2 days. I went to the doctors. And my resting heart rate was ridiculous. It was like 150, 160. It was.
Oh no!
Sorry, I'm misspeaking. My blood pressure was through the roof. Like, it was. Okay. It was, and I'm just like, and I'm like, what can I do? Like, what? I mean, I'd always laugh. I mean, anyone who was spiritual. I got a stew from years when I first started, and really spiritual. I like to make jokes about the tie dye and the crystals and hugging trees and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just a man's man. You know what I mean? Rub some dirt on it, and I'm like, I really get you now. She's like, yeah, right. I said, yeah, I really get you. Like, I wanted to find a way out of my funk. I didn't want to go to alcohol. I didn't want to go to drugs. I didn't want to go and find another person to be with, make me feel better. I wanted to save the marriage. I wanted to see what was my part of this. What can I do? You know what I mean? Like what? And then I started doing, couples therapy, and that started progressing. And then I started doing meditation. And then one of the girls on my boat with me, she was, a bit of a yogi, so she was teaching me some stuff, meditation, and I started working out more and focusing on that. I cut drinking. I was getting to bed early, meditating.
How old were you?
Ridiculous.
How old were you?
I think this was like, let's call it, I think 2019 is when I found out, like towards the end of the season, the yachting season. So what's that? Nearly 5 years ago.
Okay.
Is that right? So we got back, and I was doing that, and then it started getting a little too deep for me, a little too holistic, Mm-hmm. And my daughter's best friend's mum, she's like people still call them alcoholics, right? Even though they're sober for so many years, like 30 years sober. But I know she was always doing stuff, and she would drop things, and I just wasn't ready for it. And she's like, when you come to one of these weekends, it's a self. How do I explain it? It's hard to explain. That I can't. The words lost me. But anyway, I went to this weekend, and the guys up there saying his stuff, being inspirational, but talking about where you're at and yourself, and different people are asking questions, and I'm like, oh, these are plants. That's a plant. Oh,
a
that
retreat.
Person. It was like a retreat. Like a retreat, and I'm like, but I'm hurting. But I want this to go. I want all these emotions I'm carrying from the betrayal. I want all this to. I want it to go. Like I want to find a way. And she's like, ask him. Like, put your hand up and work with him. I'm like, no. My ego was in the way, but I'm sitting there. I'm in tears, and I'm totally vulnerable. I'm totally, And they talk about, for true transformation, high emotions is where it happens. And I got up there with him, and we went through the steps of how I related what happened to all these different stories and facts that had gone on. And so I get up there, and he's making me stand still, and I'm trying to put my hand in my pocket. He's not, stay still, stand her up, okay. Because he's trying to get my nervous system calm, right? And I'm like, all right. And I'm moving up, your hands in your pocket, like, and then he's like, all right, pick someone to be your wife. And, I pick my friend. And he goes, okay, give us an emotion. I said, betrayal. So someone stands up. And it just kept going, all these different things I was feeling and thinking, where there was me and my friend who represented my wife, and there's like 20 people in front of us. And we went through each one of them, and he asked me the right questions to let those feelings go and those concerns go until it just got to this point. And it was like, when you see like, some of these churches and they hit them in the forehead and they're like, you know what I mean? It was like that.
Uh-huh.
It was like that. And I could let go of it. I could let go of all the stuff that was holding me up, but I'd gone in such a low place. So then I did that weekend, and then I started kept doing courses with him, and I realized I need to break the cycle of parenting like my parents. I'm not saying they're bad parents, but I was a disciplined person. That was my job in the family. I'd go traveling, and my wife would call me and go, FaceTime, speak to the kids, they're doing this. And then her job was to be the emotional connection to the kids. You know what I mean? So it gave me the opportunity to have emotional connection with my children, understand them more. I can understand where people are at now more. So I kept doing the work, and then I felt great, and I stopped doing it. And then, months go past, and I went back to my old self. Being reactive.
My God. You are my brother from another mother, because so many things here, like my mother's way of parenting, not that it was wrong, but
Yeah.
it was, when it comes to depression, when I was a child, it was, you don't have depression, you pull your boots up by the bootstraps and
Yeah.
you get going,
Yeah.
and it wasn't until, I think, I don't know, sometime 10 years ago, maybe, that I sat down at the kitchen table with my whole family and told them that, I had plans to commit suicide one night. And then that's when they all started going, okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. They're like, okay, so maybe depression is a real thing. And then I explained it to them, and it's really cool to see how my mother's parenting has evolved over the years, from pull your boots up by the bootstraps and get going to, oh, this is a very real thing. Maybe we need to shift. Maybe we need to do this a bit differently,
Yeah.
And you said something else that made me think you were my brother from another mother, and I forgot what it was now. So,
Yeah. Well, what it's the silver lining is it's given me this opportunity to have a deeper connection with my children, to have a more fulfilled life. So I stopped doing the work. I started seeing myself go back to my old patterns because, I'll say 34. 34 years of being a certain way and doing the best that you can at the time. It's now I look at parts of my character and I look at it as an interest now, not as I've got to change that. It's like, well, that's interesting, Kerry. Why do you think you act that way? Do you know what I mean? And that's interesting, and see that. And it's
to learn why, and to dissect it. Why am I doing this? Why am I reacting? Right. So that's where I was going to go. Where you're my brother from another mother, is that so you did the work. You kind of fix yourself, which is what I did. So after that moment, that was a very vivid moment for me. Unfortunately, something snapped. I went into intensive therapy and medication and stuff for years, and really worked on myself, and I fixed it, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, then I stopped.
Yes, same. Yeah.
And then months go by, and I'm going, oh shit, I'm back to where I was.
Yeah.
Well, then it was like an epiphany. It was like, well, duh, you dumbass. You don't go to the gym and lose 20 pounds and then quit going to the gym.
Exactly.
After you got to keep doing the work.
Yes.
And so that's kind of like my thing is I want to share with people, and you too, how where I am now, and it sounds like you too, I'm the happiest I've ever been.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of work, and it still is. It's every day. So like you're saying, little things like, well, why did I perceive this or that, or why did I react this way? And taking the time to really step back and look at your actions and understand your actions, and like the fact that you're so committed to self-improvement, self-growth, knowing why, like I would jump through the screen and hug you. And the simple fact that you don't live far from me, I think we're going to have to get that coffee that we said we were going to a year ago.
Yes. Yeah. No, and it's great because it's like, even for my kids, when we're going through all the moments of the divorce, it's always ugly and horrible. And I got my kids into this program, where they did art. And then they'll talk about their feelings after, like getting them aware of that, getting them to understand. And people call it different in different forms of understanding the mind, but, they can call this the genius brain and the reptile brain, or, you know what I mean? Like, we've got these two cortex, and teaching them at an early age of identifying when someone is in this cortex, or this part of the head, because that's your flight or fight, right? It's not your intelligent, your thinking and this and that. So being aware when you're here, nothing that comes out here, any decision you make when it's from here has a good outcome. And teaching them to identify that. And if someone's in that reptile brain, what do? We don't engage. So this devastating thing that happened to me, I'm not going to harp on about it other than just using that, right? All the gaslighting, all the things that got me, all the horribleness, all the lawyer bills, that doesn't matter. What's amazing is from this, I'm like a freaking phoenix, man. You know what I mean? Like, and what I love about the show, and the reason I did season 11, honestly, was because I wasn't going to do it. I got to a point, I'm like, I did a venture. It was cool, but I'm like, and then, I was chatting with some people. I said, what is the most that you've got out of the show? I said, well, I'm just being me. And I get on on Instagram or something, and I like a picture. I'll go. Someone follows me. I jump on their page, and I'll like a couple of things, and it blows their mind. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm making that one person happy from just doing this, and from that happiness, all those around me are going to feel that. Right? So in my own little way, I'm making the world a happier place by just being decent. When I do my watch parties, for a venture, because my watch party it was like December. It was around my birthday, and I'm like, "Hey guys, come up to it was the Irish bar up here. I can't remember. O'Shea's up in Palm Beach Gardens." And I'm like, "It's my birthday." I said, "But I want you guys. I want everyone to bring presents for single parents for their kids. That's all I want."
Oh,
So I've got the searchlight, and I've gone boom, right? And then with the animal rescue, I do that searchlight, boom. And then I've met these guys called Wounded Waters. And what do? I was thinking about this. They get veterans, they're not just military, fire, police, who've gone through traumatic experiences, PTSD, and I take them out fishing, teach them to scuba dive. Like, that's why I do this show. Because I've been given this platform.
Yeah.
I don't need the attention. I'm doing just fine. My company's doing amazing. But it's giving me a bigger and bigger voice to redirect, tell people out. And I love how the show is gone a direction where they're really, like, me being aware of people and where they're at. The show sees that's important,
Yeah.
and they showcase it. And I've got some crew who are doing the same training I'm doing right now. I've got crew members from different seasons, and I keep an eye on all my guys after the show, on my crew. I check in on, make sure they're going, because it's from people can be horrible on social media, and I want to be there for them, So my job with my crew that I work with doesn't finish when the show finishes. It continues.
No, and it's really cool to see that, and for you to utilize. You've been handed this platform, and the fact that you're utilizing it to do good, and your reach is so huge, is really it's so awesome, because it is really cool when you get those messages from people that say, you changed my life, or you inspired me to continue living, or, and it's just like, and so that's kind of my thing is like, if all you got to do, if all you do is change one person's life, you've done your job on this planet. And I feel that if we're going to be here sucking up all the oxygen, we have to do something to give back.
Especially in yachting. Like I remember, 8 years ago, I'm like, what am I doing to make the world a better place? I'm cruising around a billionaire's boat, tipping a few guys.
I struggled with the same.
Do you know what I mean? And what I tell you, the coolest part of having this platform and people with the show. Again, my attitude to the show is so different than it was before, and we can talk about that as well, is the amount of people who are in managerial roles who reach out to me and have changed their way they manage people.
Yep.
And that is through compassion, mental health. They see that it matters to me. So I'm changing that one manager's way of doing things, and they've got, how many employees have they got? And that's going to, it just keeps going. And that person who comes home from work has been understood. They're kinder to their family. They're kinder to their dog. They're kinder to the postman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're not getting as road rage that day. And I didn't invent how all this works. I'm just so happy that I got an opportunity to get in an amazing program that's so damn helpful. And it's the program I'm in. It mixes like the Eastern practices, meditation and understanding the meridians and all that, and it mixes it with neuroscience and how the brain works and the chemicals, and I can get hold of that.
The chemistry.
I can get hold of that. It makes sense to me.
Well, and without what I want to say to people that are listening that are maybe going through something really tough. Do you realize that that very tough period in your life, your wife cheating on you, being devastated, is why you are where you are now?
Yes. Yes.
That really shitty part of life is why you are living your best life right now.
And I got a mate. Look, there was 3 of us, myself, another mate of mine, 2 other mates of mine. We went through the exact same thing at the same time. And one mate of mine, he's now married, he has a baby. You know what I mean? He took that path, you know, on where I'm at. And the other mate still wants to make his ex-wife pay. And he's still stuck in that place. And the way he talks about her and the names he calls her, you know, like I'm very confident with my children. You know, I won't say your mum, I'll say mum. Do you know what I mean? Like little things like that you can be in a really tough spot and not see a way out of it. But if you can dig in, you know, don't take vices to kick yourself away from where you're at and get the right people around you. And then you might have to change your environment. And when I say environment, maybe the people you hang out with, you can get through it.
Yeah. You know, and I'm really thankful for the day that I was done, I was doing it. And I thank my chemistry degree actually, because something snapped inside of me that said, wait, your biochemistry is off. Don't do this, you know? And so I'm like you now where, you know, the emotions, the chemistry, just everything, how the brain works and learning about that is just has become so fascinating for me, you know, but it's the shit and the moments and the things that I went through are why I am where I am now.
Yes.
And at 39, I said, I'm the happiest I've ever been. And I'm about to be 43 and I'm still saying it.
Yes.
But it takes a minute to get there. And it takes a lot of work to get there.
There's no destination. That's what people need to be aware of. There's no destination. It's just a journey.
It's the journey.
And if you keep at it, you'll have down days and you'll judge yourself. But what we don't understand is from here to here, right? It's not a straight line. All right? You have your good days and a bad day, good days and a bad day. But your bad day, right, it was better than your old good day. And that's what people don't get with this line coming up. It's you're not here. It's I'm going great. Oh yeah, have a little bit of a dip. Okay, I'm going. And that's just don't judge your emotional state. Don't judge where you're at. Like feel it, but understand that your mind. If you're going to use your mind and intuition and what you think is intuition and your gut to make decisions, your mind just wants to keep you safe. It doesn't want you to thrive.
Yeah.
And you'll keep making the repeated mistakes. If you allow that to happen, you're really got to feel where you're at. And if you're in that state and everything's hurting, and your mind just wants to find the quickest way to get rid of that problem.
It does. I say life's like the stock market. You know, it has a general trend upward. It has some dips. Sometimes it has some really big dips. Then it's got some highs. But the general trend is an upward trend. You know, and when you fall in one of those lows, you know, learn from it, glean from it what you can, and you're going to come out on the better end. But that's not without a ton of work. And, you know, and going back to Below Deck, I, from the get-go, have been one of the yachties that has said, I love Below Deck. And my reasons are different is because I grew up in North Central Indiana in a small, tiny town. I didn't know what a yacht was. I didn't even know the first time that I stepped back on the back deck of a yacht that it was a yacht. And that's also the same day that said I can drive this thing. So I don't know what the hell was going on with me that day, but I must have felt extra ballsy. But so for people like me that grew up in the center of the country, landlocked in small towns, that shows them what's possible, what else is out there. And so I've always loved it, you know, and when people say to me, well, is Below Deck, you know, is it really like that? And I'm like, well, there's some days that I'm like, damn, did I just film a whole episode of Below Deck? Because, whoo, you know, some days there's a bit dramatic on board. It can be, you know.
It's worse. It's worse.
Yeah.
It can be.
Yeah.
If you get in the wrong boat. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, I'm fortunate, you know, I have a dry boat. I have a great crew. I have a crew that's been with me for a long time, but there's still days and I'm just like, whoo, man, what happened today? You know, but no, I'm somewhat joking with that, but I like the progression that Below Deck has gone in, because even though it's dramatized, it does shows, especially with some of the alcohol and drug abuse and the bullying and the stuff. Unfortunately, and that's a lot of what I talk about, that does happen. But I like the progression that it has made now, where it's really, the show's really recognizing the struggles of mental health and crew and the sexual harassment and the drug and like they're really recognizing it and moving it forward in a different path. And I really like that. And then just what it has done for the yachting industry or people as a whole, like you said, it gives you a platform to utilize to change people's lives. And even if you change just one life, Kerry, it's worth it, you know?
It is. And I just fell into it. You know, I didn't know, you know, if I hadn't had that experience in my personal life, one thing I would never done the show. I would have continued. I would have continued on the way I thought was fine. I would never have the connection I have with my kids today. I wouldn't have started my own company and have the freedom I have today to spend this time with my children. And most importantly, I wouldn't have been able to live my best version of myself. I mean, I was aware that I needed to work on some stuff, but I didn't know what I was doing. And I was too proud to go to therapy. You know what I mean? It was only because I was so desperate to stop feeling this way. That's what drove me to mental health and to doing things that, I mean, I went to a silent retreat for 4 days in the Colorado Mountains, not talking, no cell phone, no music, no reading, 4 days of yoga and meditation. And at the end of it, you know, we can talk, right? And I just didn't want to. I didn't want to get back. I didn't want to turn my phone on. Obviously, want to talk to my girlfriend and stuff. But I was at this level of peace I've never experienced in my life. And you could ask any of my mates, they're like, bullshit, Kerry would do that. And then I'm chatting with the people at the retreat, and it pops up what I do. They're like, "What? You do that? And you're here?" I said, "Yeah, man, I do. I really do."
Cool.
You know,
That's
and it, you know, because I never wanted to be stuck in my own head. You know, that's why I never played golf or did like fishing, because I didn't want to be stuck in my own head. Now I play golf.
I don't play golf because I could easily get obsessed with having to win, and you never will win at golf. So I have to steer very clear of golf. The only golf I would play would be like the all grip tournament, you know, the best ball. And that's when Lee and I first met, Captain Lee, like before Below Deck, you know, and I used to always keep myself out of the industry. I wouldn't go to any of the events. You know, I wanted to meet the people ashore. I didn't want to get caught up and hang out at all these yachty parties and just talk boats. I want to meet the real people. And so I wasn't really known. People knew me, but I wasn't really known. So whenever I go to these golf tournaments, it'd be like, who wants this guy? You know what I mean? It'd be a scramble, which was great. So it's the best sport, right? So you have 3 or 4 of you in the cart, or a couple of carts, and then everyone hits the ball, and whichever's the best ball, we take that. That was the only golf I would play. The only golf I'd play, you know? And I remember Lee like teaching me how to swing and stuff, and I'm like, that's cool. And it was before Below Deck, I guess. But now my son and I, so we have it's called Father Sunday. So I take I'm the father and my son on Sunday, and we go out and we get coached, and it's this connection with my son that I would never have had before. That's amazing, and it's because of the tough stuff that we go through that makes us who we are, and
yes,
and it, you know, I have one last question, because you and I, we have to have maybe part 2 and part 3 of this, and definitely
coffee.
Would you change anything about your path?
Hindsight's a bitch, man. You know what I mean? Right?
It is. But it's what gets us to where we are.
I truly look at that part of my life as a silver lining.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not saying everything is rosy. I'm not saying that everything is great when we're dealing with family problems. You know what I mean?
No,
it's still there.
Yeah.
But this work has helped me deal with that and identify where she's at and not react to it in a way that I normally would. Would I change anything? Maybe be more open earlier and not had to wait for such a horrible part of my life to happen to recognize where I'm at. Maybe that would be the thing that would have been better for me, because that's what it took. And I think my message would be take some time and maybe your life could be better than what it is. Maybe you think it's fine, but it's not. I thought mine was fine. I was just before the affair. We were in Australia looking at homes because I was going to take on a 90-meter rotation job. I thought my life was amazing. I thought everything was gravy. Everything was everything I wanted. I've been chasing this job down for years. And I thought everything was great. It wasn't. I'm not saying what happened was right, but we all have our part, right? So I'm pretty sure, well, again, I shouldn't even think like that. I thought I was great, but I wasn't. And it's very hard to look at yourself when you think everything is amazing. But I think it's worth to check in with yourself and check in and see where you're at. You may not be where you think you are, and you could be doing way better.
And check in frequently. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, wow. Man, this is awesome. This is the best one yet. Like, I'm going to say it again. You're just down the street. We have to have coffee.
Yeah.
We have to have a part 2. Like, and, I started off by saying when I met you and you came up and talked to me, I was just like instantly drawn to you because you're so cool. You're so kind. You're so human. and you're just so supportive of me. And I look at you as like, like a kind of an idol. You're a big boat captain, you're on TV and this and that. And no, you're just a cool dude. So thanks,
Kelly. I appreciate that. That's very nice of you to say that. I'm just Kerry. I'm just the bloke down the road, I've worked hard to get where I've got, and I'm going to keep working harder to do even better.
And better and to get even further. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, we definitely got to look at getting together the next Palm Beach Boat Show. That would be great as well.
Oh my God. I'm just sitting here thinking the wheels are turning. I'm like, man, the way you are into mental health like me, we could do some stuff now.
Yeah, absolutely. Be awesome.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thanks for listening to Captain Kerry's uncharted path to where he is today. I hope you enjoyed. All right.
See you guys.